when people are like, well, you don't understand this part of economics, or you don't understand that part of politics, I'm like, I don't even care about those parts, to be honest with you.
How is that relevant to the part of me living in alignment? I don't want to be a person who lives off of others, who has this second-handed approach to life. I want to take agency. I want to live in alignment with my values. I want to work out my virtues in a way that leads toward growth. So apparently we got some stuff going on with our latest release. Dr. Doug wasn't super well received. People didn't love it.
So it's not necessarily, well, it's not the episode, right? You know, we try to put together little packages to promote the episode as far as like clips, you know, to showcase the ideas that people bring to the show. And, you know, putting together those things. And one of those clips that came out was Dr. Doug about Marx, right? And got kind of taken to task on his facts on Marx.
Okay.
Yeah, there's really no way to get around it. It's just, so the big part of it is, you know, what's highlighted in the comment is him referring to Marx inventing socialism. Whereas, I mean, it's kind of a trap to, it's like, the first thing is like, well, Marx didn't invent socialism. You know, it was, that's the major thing that's popping up, right? And
Right.
I think that's a fair criticism, you know. But at the same time, I'm not here to police the guests. You know, people have
Right,
their
but
views.
also, like, that's not the biggest part and point of this whole deal. Marx likes socialism.
Right.
Marx, socialism, communism, these are all collectivist ideas. This is the generalization. We're not doing a play-by-play of every collective idea in the world. I hear you. Could we be more clear on this and say, like, this was the play-by-play? I'm like, you know, if this was a history lesson, sure, we could certainly talk about that. He is just saying these
Right.
collective ideas Marx agreed with. The end. I mean, whatever.
Right. I mean, it's getting picked apart at every place, right? He said Marx was born in, or he grew up in Bavaria. People were saying, no, he didn't grow up in Bavaria. He grew up in another place. Another place in Germany. Then
Right.
there's the element of, what's the other thing? Oh, Marx, he was saying Marx was scared of change when and then other people will kind of push back like, well, he's about revolution. So how could he be afraid of change if he was about revolution?
Right. Says the person who wasn't revolutionary and actively lived off of friends and family because he didn't do anything. I don't think he was super revolutionary in action. He was in words. In words, he was revolutionary. There's a difference.
Right. So this actually gets me to it. I'm trying to follow a track here, because it gets me to this place where I'm hearing this feedback. I'm not policing the guest. But at the same time, I don't agree with the facts wholly, but I am aligned with him in essence from about the most important part, right? And that would kind of make me overlook some of the factual incongruities sometimes.
Details. These are details. These are details
Right.
of like, hey, these are historic specificities that, you know, you would need to actually study to know. And that's fair. People can say, these are actual facts that exist, and these are some details that are really important to people who are historians. I'm like, awesome, great talk. I'm actually not a historian. I don't claim to be, and I'm not here to teach people history. I am specifically speaking about the idea of how this idea of collectivism versus capitalism applies to my situation, our situation in this present moment, right now. This is what we are talking about. So yes, we may get the history wrong. There may be things I need to learn. Sure. We can certainly have that conversation after we finish the main conversation of morality and life and death and economy. Once we get that together, then we can certainly say, hey, you didn't know a lot about stuff that happened, 2 or 3 centuries ago. I'm like, hey man, I probably didn't know a lot about centuries ago. I didn't study anything that happened then. I just generally was trying to figure out if it's right to steal or if it's not okay to steal. And it seems like it's not great to steal. Apparently, it didn't work out, even historically. I don't have all the historical details, but we know generally those people aren't around anymore. Some of them starved, some of them killed each other, and some of them fought us. But either way, not here anymore.
So, but I find that fascinating, right? Because people get to harping on what I would consider the small stuff, right? Now, for some people, they elevate these details to the bigger story, and I think details should be correct. I
Yeah,
think that's
I'm not
important,
opposed.
but I am still aligned with him in essence that socialism is bad. So for
Right,
me, it's not a hard thing. Like, because to me, socialism is bad on a moral basis for me. So the
moral basis.
details could be off, but the point of it is I'm still aligned. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
But this one socialist person was born over here. He actually only liked ice cream on Tuesdays. He didn't actually eat ice cream on Wednesdays. Like he
Right,
may not have,
exactly.
but that doesn't change the fact that he was stealing from other people so he could give it to other people, and that was not okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But once again, to me, this is good because it's kind of like a slow roll to where I'm trying to go. I think, let me, all right, let me, if you will, I want us kind of like use what you're saying and use something that you said before as a way to explain a point that is important to me, right? Um, because like when I'm talking to people, I get the essence, I get the feeling like you understand that there's a moral basis to meaning in itself, right? And that's at the root of pretty much everything that we talk about here. Like I'm not an economics first person. I'm a moral first person, and my economics is a result of my morals and ethics. Right.
There we
I'm not
go.
a politics person, but my politics are the result of my morals and ethics.
Yes, the goal is
So
integrity, trying to live in alignment.
right. And so when people are like, well, you don't understand this part of economics, or you don't understand that part of politics, I'm like, I don't even care about those parts. To be honest
Right.
with you.
How is that relevant to the part of me living in alignment? I don't want to be a person who lives off of others, who has the second-handed approach to life. I want to take agency. I want to live in alignment with my values. I want to work out my virtues in a way that leads toward growth.
Right, right. But the one thing I would say is when I'm talking to people like this, the goal when I'm speaking is I'm always trying to explain it like I'm speaking to a first grader or a child, right? And it part of what so maybe a few weeks ago or something like that, I remember we were having a conversation and it was like it was about development and about self-authorship, right? And I think one of your points was that well, we begin as self-authoring, right? And I think that's kind of like what you're saying, like, yeah, okay. And so for me, when I'm explaining that element of things, I'm always trying to explain it from a developmental angle because what I think happens is we start projecting what a person can be or what they would be in an ideal state instead of understanding that there's a developmental path to getting to that ideal state. Like you're not kicking down the womb like, I understand this and I understand that, and I get making decisions. It doesn't work
I'm
like that,
not.
right?
Not exactly. It is a
It's
process. You're bad at something before you get better at it. That's true. It's like you may start self-authoring, but you suck at it. And so you're typically not. You typically have the option to do it. You typically just don't. You're like, I'm going to take whatever someone else gave me and I'm going to run with that because I don't know better yet. I'm like, and you don't know better.
Great, and I'm glad you said it like that, right? Because I'm a refer back to something that Dr. Lincoln Stoller said when he was saying a child has a real world, right? A child has a real world. It's a smaller world. It's a more vulnerable world, and it's a less able world. And when I think about the developmental path, regardless of how old a person is, I still look at people, I look at adult and child along that pathway,
The
right?
whole continuum.
And yeah. And so when I think about a person who hasn't traveled that path very far, I don't see them as like, I don't see them as, I see them stuck in the world of people, just like a child is stuck in the world of people. When he says a child has a less able life, a smaller life, they
True.
can't, like, they are dependent upon people. They are dependent upon people pretty much totally, you
Right.
know?
Yes.
And so the thing I want to do is like when I'm explaining things to people who, regardless of how old they might be 46 years old, and to me they still might be at a level 2, level 3, whereas though they need things
Yes.
explained to them step by step by step. They can't get to the moral ideal. Hey, I understand the fundamental of the conversation. You got to explain like, hey, this is where we start. This is why
This
we
is where
start
we
this. See, you
start.
see the material
Yeah.
part. There's material, but see, there's meaning beneath all of the ideas that we're talking about.
Right.
But you have to give them all of that. We can't expect them to totally get the meaning part.
No, you can't. We
That's
don't
what
all
I'm
start
saying.
there, and we can't expect people to start there. We have to meet them where they are and go from where that basic stuff are. You start here as a person. You have a feeling or a thought or a general experience, and then you try to make meaning of it. And then we got to slowly start piecing together. Like some of these meetings, come together. It's a whole development process from percepts to concepts to principles, and then you can start having a lot more moral conversations when they finally develop through those stages.
Yeah. And so I guess at the end of the day, for me, it's just that I may be talking to grown people in that way because I think it's important. Oh, this is what it is. This is the real main part. Because I'm trying to piece it together as I'm thinking. Also within that conversation with Dr. Stoller was, he said, when talking to kids, it's not always about bringing them up to you. It's about coming down to them and remembering where you were when you were at that place, right?
Yeah,
And so that's what I'm thinking about when I'm talking to people about these ideas. I'm like, oh yeah, I was there, and this is how I was thinking when I was there. And so
that's what I
I'm not going to
experienced.
just magically pretend that you are thinking, I'm gonna let's not even do hierarchies. I'm not gonna magically pretend like you're thinking about something more than somebody who's there, right?
Exactly.
And so, but I think a lot of times that's what happens. When I see people ridiculing like kids or young adults or even the example that Dr. Stoller gave us is it's the whole idea of you should know better. Don't you know this and don't you know that? And a lot of times they
Yes.
just don't know.
They
You
don't.
know what I'm saying?
Like, you should know what I know because I know it, and therefore, why don't you know it? Uh-oh, we're
Right,
projecting. Now we're getting into a lot of
right,
nonsense. That is not how people work. We don't all start at the same place, and we don't all end up at the same place.
right, right. And that's but it I think it's irritating to a lot of people to explain things in that kid-like way, whereas though that's why I try to cut through all of the what is that word, man? Like, we put a lot of stuff on like, sometimes a thing is just a thing. Well, it's not sometimes. A thing is just a thing, but the ideas that we put on top
Applications.
of the thing is like that's what a person that hasn't developed that, they can't see that. It's like, well, why are you I don't know. helping your mother do whatever. I don't even know exactly what to do, what to say, or why would you help someone that wouldn't help you? It's like, whoa, you don't understand how this thing play out over a long period of time, and
It
it's also
does.
about leadership too, right?
Yeah, I
So
mean,
that's the
yeah, that's
struggle that
that
that it is.
those require different skill sets. You definitely have to figure out who the person you're talking to, like what level they are, but also I go back. Yeah, I also have to hit the highlights of the lessons that you've gone through to say like, this is the most important part for me when I was first starting out, and this is the next step. And trying to find ways to build those building blocks is key when it comes to morality. You go back and you can just tell a story of just how you encountered this first obstacle growing up. Like I wanted to, you know, I was on the playground and I wanted to have a lot of fun and I wanted to play this game and I wanted to learn how to play baseball. It would be really great. But like I didn't have a baseball, didn't have a bat, I didn't have any teammates. So like, I had to show up to the field and then see if somebody else wanted to play with me. And then I had to get them to explain the rules. And then I had to get them to, we didn't have a lot. So one person brought a baseball and then we asked them if they would toss the ball with us. And then they tossed the ball around. And that was our learning how to play catch. And then someone was like, hey, I brought a bat or found a stick. And then that was where we learned how to
Right.
swing. Like we just have to start building the basic, you build each piece slowly until people were like, oh, there was a reason we did the thing. I'm like, yes, there was a reason we have these rules. We have these rules of the game. We formed a game to have fun. We did this fun in this way, and we obeyed these rules so that we would have more fun. And we did this together so that we would actively be able to see a little bit more, gain a little bit more experience, but also enjoy the game and not have to do every single thing ourselves. This is why we collaborate. There are reasons for us following these rules so that we actually all have a better life.
The thing that connects it all, and you said it, is reason. Like to me, the reason is the thing that gets you. The reason is the thing that connects me to someone who isn't there yet. Because I can just start saying, well, you want this, don't you? And you want that. Well, the story the story gets longer, but the answer is never the answer is never the Kantian answer. It's never the good for good sake. You know,
Exactly.
it's the you wanted this thing, so you needed to do things. You needed to do this chain of actions to get the thing that you wanted. Just because it was
Thank
a
you.
chain of actions and not a direct action and it's not immediate doesn't mean that these things aren't connected. It doesn't mean that it's made up. It just means that it took more than one thing. And it definitely doesn't mean good for good sake. You know what I'm saying?
Because when people say good for good sake, like especially when Kant says it, he has this idea of intrinsic goodness for no sake. And I'm like, oh, everything that we're saying is good. Every moral component is good to a person for a thing. It's to a person for a reason. They are actively trying to accomplish something specific in their lives. I am trying to accomplish something specific in my life that makes this either good or bad for me. That is that is how I know it is good or bad because I am the one in it, and therefore I can tell you, is this good for me or bad for me on a long enough time frame? Like, does this work for me to move me past the range of the moment kind of experience? And I think there's that part gets skipped over when they're just like, it's either my team or your team. It's either my side or your side. I'm like, oh, we don't have to get stuck in tribalism. There are
Right.
actual consequences of our actions that we can point to say this will affect us in a beneficial way long term or in a detrimental way long term. We don't have to guess whose side it is. We have evidence. We have real. We have. We don't just use logic to connect these things. We can actually use the data from reality to say, oh, we've seen how this worked out before.
Yeah, that's true, right? And somehow, as you're talking, it reminds me, my mind starts floating because I'm thinking about people who I may agree with, but I don't feel like they have a great grasp of the reason. Totally, they may be good for good sake people, but the the good that they've accepted, we're aligned in essence. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah. Sometimes people are
whereas
on the
though,
same team, but without the same reason. So they're like, we're gonna do this thing. I'm gonna do it because I just feel like it, and you're gonna do it because, who knows? It's like, oh, I do know. We should definitely all know. It'd be great if we start discussing this. We can, do some self reflection. You do some introspection, and then we'll volunteer an opinion, and you can just learn,
right?
and I can learn.
But 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 then on the other side, right? And it's not. It's appearing to me as like right and left, but it's not really that. But then on the other side, there are a lot of people who I feel like are very naive. They ask a lot of good questions, but the problem is they don't have the reason part to tie it together. It's like a whole bunch of pieces with no thread, you know? And it's nothing to link it together because the reason is the linking, right? But
You have to make those
the people who,
associations.
yeah, you got to make this associations, but people will ask a question in a vacuum. Like, well, I mean, I'm getting into it today about capitalism online. I'm not getting into it. I'm just talking and whatever. And people are like, back in 19 such and such or 18 such and such, capitalists were making kids work with bad labor laws or whatever, something like that. And it's like
Hmm.
capitalism is not about what happened when people were making money. That's it's not what capitalism is, you know.
Right. But
And
you're conflating a person in a capitalist system with an action they did. And you're conflating that with the economic system that they did it in. I'm like, hey, sometimes we'll be
right,
we'll be driving on the road and some of the kids inside of a car will hit another kid. It's not driving that's the problem. It's not roads that are the problem. You're against you're against this form of violence. And I think we need to really be more specific when we're talking about things. Just because somebody who has money did a thing doesn't mean that they were doing a capitalist thing. Doesn't mean that capitalism was the reason
right,
or the problem. It just happened to be
right,
something that they were in.
right. As people try to attribute like the what is it, the Robert Scully? People will try to attribute certain behaviors to capitalism that really don't have anything to do with capitalism at all.
There you go.
And
Just like Dr. Doug was talking about. He's like, a lot of people are really angry with a lot of terrible things that people in capitalist societies have done. He's like, but that was the government's job to stop the injustice. That was the government's application of capitalism that they hated. It's like this had nothing to do with the fact that free enterprise and free markets exist. That wasn't the thing. He's like, well, slavery is bad. He's like, slavery is terrible, but that's not what's done with. That's not what capitalism advocated. That is what people chose. And that's what the government enforced. And if the government didn't stop the people from making the unjust choices, then it's the government's fault and job to do that.
right, yeah, it's true. Uh,
And you can't blame the
but
economic system
that's
for people's individual agency. And that's the part that I get frustrated with.
because to me, some of these opinions come from a naive place. That's 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 the frustration that I get because they don't ask the next question. Do, what do you think is going to happen? Like, like when people say socialism, it's like we're going to pay for stuff. When the money, when if people aren't working, well, it's not that they aren't working. If people, if the stuff that people get isn't connected to the production that they achieve, how do you think that? How do you think that that's going to work out? You know what I'm saying? It
Yeah,
doesn't.
I mean,
It doesn't really work out.
exactly. I just it's helpful to go back and say systems exist. The definition of a system is any process that gets a repeatable outcome. And the only way you're going to get that outcome is if you have an incentive. That's that is the only that is the only way that systems work. And everything around you is a system because we're getting these outcomes. There's cause and effect. And when people dissociate cause and effect, and they're just like, we want all these outcomes, and we're just gonna let the government be the middleman. That I, I'm a person who wants a thing, and this is the food or the product or the service that I want, and the government will just be in the middle. It'll just fix it because we have government, and the government will do socialism. Now I will now have the thing. Like, that is a lie, and I need you and everyone to to start taking just a little bit of time to see about what pieces would connect you, the government, and that thing. That thing does not come from anywhere. The government does not make that thing. That thing, that product,
Right.
that service only comes from people. And you are part of the people, right? If you are the people who want the thing, either you learn how to make it or do it, or somebody else will learn how to make and produce that thing. The government is nowhere in here.
Right.
They don't make the thing. They don't do the thing. All they can do is find other people who have the thing and take it from them by use of the government, by use of the monopoly on force through the police and the army, and use that force to take it from somebody and give it to you through socialism or communism and these collective portions. Or we
Right.
could find a way to relate to each other that doesn't involve the government and allows us to talk to each other without actively using the government to rob and kill and steal. It just seems like we need to have a clearer conversation because there is a lack of clarity about what socialism and collective approaches are.
Yeah, that's the tricky part, man, because I think that I think education has to support capitalism, right? There's a freedom that I get it. I guess capitalism provides a freedom to even the bad people too, to the
Yeah,
bad apples. You
right.
know,
You can make choices.
so
Some of those choices might be good. Some of those choices might be terrible. You get to make choices.
yeah, and even even a good apple can make a bad choice. I'm talking about a straight up bad apple. The person that
That's fair.
repeatedly makes bad choices on purpose,
On
like
purpose.
like a slumlord, you know,
Right?
uh, someone who always tries to get out of paying bills even when they're supposed to be legally liable,
Yeah, or criminals. Just
and stuff like
all
that.
criminals. We can just group them together. There are lots of people who try to get over on others and take advantage of other people.
Yeah. So yeah, so the government's job is just a protection force. This is
There
that's
we
what
go.
they're here for. That's what they're
Thank
here
you.
for.
When we say serve and protect, this is how. This is what we mean. Actively create these guardrails so that people can get property, defend their property. The government's job is to make sure they uphold these property rights and make sure people can then use their property in a way that is going to lead toward flourishing, in a sense of use their property to take care of their needs without having to worry about someone else taking their property away and actively, throwing up obstacles to them getting their needs met.
Yeah, yeah. So I didn't even mean to bring up economics, but this much. But it's just going there this time. But it's two things that's on my mind, right? That I kind of got to get at. So going back and forth again with somebody, not back and forth, but just quick message. And a person starts talking about how the greedy rich are hoarding wealth in America, pretty much. And people have a right to life. It was like they take your right to live away because it makes you work for it. It didn't all make sense, right? But here's the thing: the idea of greedy, wealthy people hoarding money. So there's one path I can take on it that I can get to next. But the first one is I do think there's something wrong here for the result to be what the result is. And I just kind of want to take the time to maybe flesh it out, or maybe you can help me flesh it out. Because, and I think I understand what the problem is, and it's the government cronyism stuff, right?
Yes.
But the whole idea is that I don't care about how much money a person makes when they generate value.
There
But
you go. I just want
government
people to
cronies.
actually do the work. They do the work. They
Yeah.
should be rewarded for the work that they do. That's not wrong. That's the basis of all reality in the sense of like that's how we relate to the world and how we get needs met. So I think when people say, "Oh, these greedy, wealthy people are hoarding wealth or hoarding money, hoarding resources," I'm like, you're making a lot of assumptions that are based off of things that are untrue and unhelpful. Let's go back to the beginning. Where does wealth come from? Where do things happen? How do people get their needs met? I think that's a helpful basic we can all agree on. But I hear you. There is a real problem going on where people who have wealth are doing terrible things to exploit others. And then there are people who need things who are being denied both opportunities, access, and general helpful portions, like ways we can relate to them. And I think like, okay, those are there's a level of injustice that exists in the system because no system is perfect. A lot of people do people things. Not all of these choices are good. And like you said, there are real bad actors in the world who are actively doing wrong on purpose. And so I think there are real ways to say, oh, crime is still wrong. Evil is still evil. We still need to call that out and we still need to address it. People holding a
Right.
lot of resources is not the wrong part. That's not the thing we need to focus on.
Right.
There are people actively
No.
exploiting people, hurting people, denying people their rights, and actively going out of their way to take things away that don't belong to them. That's crime. We have laws about that. Those laws should be enforced. And this government cronyism, the government should enforce these laws without giving preference to the people who hold a lot of stuff. Just because people have
Right.
a lot of resources doesn't mean that the laws don't apply. Clearly, that these laws are not being applied appropriately. We need to focus on the what do we call this when the government does the corruption? We need to focus on the corruption and getting rid
Right.
of that. When our leaders that we elect do the corrupt behavior, we should stop electing them. Seems like it's a problem. We should stop. Number one, letting them continue. Number two, we should actively hold them accountable.
That's true. That, so that's the protection part, right? That's the the
Mm-hmm.
protection is the job, but there's also the government is actually the person who's screwing up the balance, you know? because like you said,
Yeah.
the argument is not someone is super rich. And because my pushback to this person, and I'm not going to derail what you're saying. I'm kind of trying to align with down the tracks. Is that what do you think that they are doing with these billions of dollars? Like, do you think that they have a big safe in the house with billions of cash just swimming in it like Donald McDuck or something like? I mean,
Exactly. Scrooge McDuck's
whatever
out here just
Scrooge.
kind of swinging around. That's what they're doing. And because they're swimming around in this money, corruption is happening and crime is happening. I'm like, oh, that's not how crime or corruption works. Now I hear you. Corrupt people have used their resources to further their criminal activity. I'm not. I am not
Yeah.
pretending that everybody is on the same page and just being nice to each other. I do not pretend that wrong things are. I don't pretend that wrong doesn't exist, and I don't pretend that people who are more able to do more things because of resources aren't doing more wrong things. Like I don't. Let's not pretend that way. But let's just stop conflating these two. I need there to be a clear. I need to be clear. I need there to be clarity about government corruption and actual crime being the things that we want to fix, so that we have less of this confusion of eat the rich. I'm like, no, stop the corruption, stop the crime. That's what we need to focus our energy and our attention on.
Yeah. Yes, that part. Absolutely. But I'm pushing toward another point here, right? Because when people are worth billions of dollars, those billions of dollars, the majority of them are in investments. And those
Yes.
investments typically, not all the time, put it like this money is paying somebody. They're not sitting the money in their home. It's not in a safe. It could
Right.
be the money that's in a business that gave you a job, you know?
Yes.
It's working somewhere. That's the whole idea of people, oh, they made they didn't necessarily make $1 billion cash. That's
Right.
not how that works. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right. But that's not
they
how
didn't
wealth
just bring
works.
home $1 billion.
You know, while a lot of people started poor, they didn't stay poor. And therefore, while they were super poor, you know, and moving up to the middle ranks, they had to store away money in a savings account, you know, and that was what they had to do for a bit while they were working their way, you know, through working their way up. And that might have happened for a generation or two while they were saving. But like the majority of their billions isn't in their savings account. That's not how wealth works. What the people who learned how to make money learned that that you would make a lot more money if you took it out of savings and you made it active. And they usually call those investments.
Yes.
And not only just regular
Yes.
investments, but they actively bought assets. And assets are things that make you money while your money is working with you. And that's a whole different concept. Now, I get it. Not everyone is super financially literate, but just the idea that wealthy people got wealthy just by saving a whole lot of money and or stealing, I'm like, is wrong by definition, because that doesn't make enough money. And that's the part people it's almost like people don't know that assets exist. And so I want to just go back to the point where it's like, hey,
They don't.
their money
They
that
don't.
they have made money. That's the only reason they're rich. That is the entire foundation they have, is that every dollar they have is put to work making more dollars. Otherwise, they would not be rich. They
Yeah.
wouldn't even keep up with inflation. They would be poor.
It's a ridiculous thing, right? It's a ridiculous thing. and and the last part to this piece, right, is I'm thinking about this in conjunction with I never finished my Wealth of Nations, but I'm more than halfway probably through it. But I do remember he was going through the story about potatoes and oats and grains and all these different lands. So the whole idea, when people talk about the money is here, we just need to give it away to people, or, we can just kind of like, not everybody has the work. I don't really understand. I don't get the logic. I don't think you get the logic either. But the point of it is that production is responsible for population growth. Without production, many of you people wouldn't even be alive today. And so
No people would be alive today without production. Production is the only way we get to live. If you don't produce the food, you don't get to eat the food. If you don't produce the cars, you cannot drive the cars. If you don't produce these businesses, then you don't have jobs. It's not that people are denying them for you. You have to make them for them to exist. Just it. We just have to
yes,
we have to start with the law of identity. If A is not A, if A is just magical dropping in from a special planet or the aliens or God or whatever, I'm like, then we're missing it. We didn't do our job yet. We didn't do the things that we're able to do. If we don't make it, it is not going to be made.
hey, and when I say production, I was just saying in the context of world population was not growing at the rate as you were saying. I don't know where it is now, but there was a boom. Like, there was pretty much a stable amount of people, and then when production increased, babies was just popping up. People and the kid. Well, not just babies popping up either. Kids weren't always dying in childbirth as much as technology develops as well with that stuff,
Right.
right? So my ending point, where the place that I get to, is when people have these arguments about the rich should do this and the rich should do that, and I'm like, if it weren't for the rich, you may not even be here. Your children may not even be here because they're producing the things that enable you to go to the store to get food, to, all of those conveniences. that allow people to live a better life than people had to live a while before. But you have to keep that. You have to maintain that level of production to keep the levels where they are. Now people talk about overpopulation, which is a ridiculous claim, but I'm just tying all of these things in together with that
Mm-hmm.
whole aspect of it's more or less like, yo, because you can, you need to make more things and pay for my life and pay for the kids that I'm gonna have because you can. It's like you signing up for a duty. It's like, no, why should I like your kids couldn't even be here for if it weren't for the production of many of these people. And that's a
Right.
real claim. That's not like a fictitious claim. You can look in history and look at population booms and
Mm-hmm.
say, look, without, like you said, without the production, these people would not be able to survive. So you can't come to me with a claim on I now owe. You owe a lot of a lot of y'all owe your lives to highly productive people. You know?
Yes.
So I know there's a lot of linking together, but that to me is something that needs to be linked together because people think that their kids that are starving. Don't you see all of these people out here? It's like, how did they make it to this point? Like, I don't know. I'm not trying to be insensitive. I'm just saying that you can't just think that somebody's supposed to slit open, just stop what they doing just to kind of like they're supposed to surrender everything to you as if this is the right thing to do. I don't necessarily always think it's the right thing to do. That's all. And you can push back on that if you disagree.
I want to go back to people having agency, and they get to choose between making right choices or wrong choices. And the standard we're talking about is morality in the sense of something that's life promoting or life ending. And I think that that's a helpful distinction to say life is the standard. We want the idea of your life being a time in existence where you are promoting your actual life-giving function where where you as a person continue existing on earth. It's like that part matters. And that part is a healthy standard to say there are some actions that lead to that lasting longer, and there's some things that lead to that ending very quickly. And the first thing that you have to do to promote your life is to produce. You have to produce something to meet your
Yes.
needs. And this is your basis for life, this is your basis for living, this is your job as a person, and you have that agency. You have these choices every day to make new choices, to get your mind in line with your actions, to build up uh, a life that has you do the virtues, do the actions that are necessary to keep your life um, to promote your life. Period. And I think that's
Right.
a beneficial starting point to say we all have that job, we all have that expectation now, and therefore we should be able to do that in a way that allows for people to live together, relate to one another, and interact. And that can only be done or has been done in the best way through capitalism as an economic system that allows this free exchange. And when people do terrible things and they make choices, and when they make these choices that hurt the system, hurt each other, and hurt that general uninfluenced exchange, or at least exchange in a way to where it's not compulsion, then it's like, all right, when people do things to hurt that, should be laws against that. And the government should enforce those laws, and that allows for there to be the guardrails we need for people to interact in a way that makes the most sense. In the sense of like, this has given us the most economic prosperity the world has ever known to give us this great population that we have now, so that people's strengths can be used to effectively compensate for other people's weaknesses. And when people are like, "Don't you care about these people starving?" I do, and I care first about this
Yes.
person starving. I don't want to starve, and then I care about all the other people around, so they don't starve either. I want to have enough stuff
Right.
to make sure I don't die. And now that I'm still alive, I want to use the stuff that I have, find other people who are good at things. And I want to go and trade with them. Like, hey, you're better at this than I am. Here's some of my stuff. Live. All right. Now that we're both alive, please use your strength that you're good at to help me over here, because I'm really bad at this thing. I'm not the best, farmer. I'm not the best mechanic. I'm not the best insert thing here. And there is a reason for human collaboration, interaction. Like the free market is one of the healthiest ways for people to have the conversation of how can I help you with what you need. I'm like, this is if you cared about these people that when people bring up the starving children, I'm like, if you cared about these starving kids, then you would go and find out what these kids need, and you would become the producer to meet these needs. You wouldn't go out randomly to go steal from other randoms to give to these kids. You would find a kid you could help today and then help them. How about that? How about you start with that kid and help them today instead of finding ways that the government can become the criminal and become the person who can steal from others to give to these kids? I'm like, that's not the plan. That is not a life benefit. That is not a life promoting plan that leads to flourishing. And it just doesn't actively work. Like we do not have the resources to do it. And we can't keep the resources once we spend all the resources. Like even if we had enough to feed every kid today, we won't have enough to feed them tomorrow. And the more socialist, collectivist, communist approaches that just steal from other people, the less incentive people have to make the stuff that the government is stealing. Please stop talking about this being an option.
I agree with everything you said, but the focus that came up for me is that you have to find the standard. So when a person becomes an adult, there's this when you say the assumption or the expectation, that's the thing. Like as a kid, right? I don't expect the kid to feed themselves, right? I expect the kid to be dependent in large part, especially to a certain age, right? And 14 or something like that. 13, 14, 15, 16. But there has to be an assumption, a baseline assumption when you're interacting with what you would consider an adult. And because it changes from, okay, you're a child and you're a dependent and that's okay, to, okay, you're an adult now, and if you screw this up, that's on you. That's the part that I'm thinking about that has to happen, because if without that, I'm not going to entertain a whole bunch of arguments without that, because who the hell knows what the answer to the question of the day is at that point in time? I need to have some way to some criteria to be able to judge on. And that's why I'm always talking about
Yes.
rationality, right?
Right.
Because you're there's only so much, and it's not even that it's it's not, because then somebody could always make the case to you like, well, no, there's more. See how much we're spending on war. See how much we're spending on this, that, and the other. And you really can't. If you wanted to, you could. If you tried to crunch the numbers, it's
Hmm.
really going to end up in a narrative anyway. It's not going to be a real crunching of the numbers. Well, we could squeeze a few pennies out here for this person to eat. And people in their human nature part is like, well, I want a little bit more than this person. It
Hmm.
does not really matter the number. The what really matters is, what is the criteria that's going to, what are we going to judge this thing on? And that's when the reason and the rationality come into play. And then that's the moral aspect of, hey, all of the things can be happening in the world, but I'm going to judge you on this aspect of it. Are you producing? Are you trustworthy? Are you not committing crimes? Are you, these things? And then
Yeah.
that's where the story starts.
I mean, exactly. And I think that when people bring up, oh, people bring up all these people are in need. What's going on with all these people in need? We have to meet these people's needs. I'm like, all right, well, until you start practicing charity yourself, you can't claim virtue. So you're not arguing from a place of morality. You're not arguing from a place of strength. You're talking to me about a problem. You say, oh, look, I've noticed a problem. I'm like, awesome. What have you done about it? Well, nothing. I was going to get you and you and you and you, and then y'all were going to do something about it. I'm like, oh, that doesn't make you a good person, though. That makes us good people if we chose to do it. But like, we don't spend all day noticing your problems. You spent all day doing that. I've already seen these problems and done what I did to address them. And that's great. And that makes me a good person to me. And that's awesome for me. But like, you want us to do something, but I'm waiting for you to start. When you do something, if it's something that I also care about, and we share that value, then we can do something. That's a whole separate topic. We can start with that once you decide to take other people into consideration. But, until you actively do something that I also care about doing, I'm not obligated to start caring just because you care. That's not a conversation at all.
Right. Nah, I mean, that's true. That part is true. But I just think that it comes down to the assumptions, man. Because if you think that it's okay for people to live like children and and I don't even know, I'm about to say in the body that we consider an adult. But I mean we got an age range, right? So we more or less consider people adults at 18. Sometimes I guess low as 16, I think. So that's what that threshold is about. It's really about, look, no more babying you. No more expectation of being dependent. You're gonna have to get up and get it yourself. And then
There you go.
when people don't have that expectation, they're like, well, not everybody can do X, Y, and Z. And see, that's a moral issue. And people may not understand that's a moral issue.
Right. Right. But people can't
Because
do a lot of things because limits exist. People are human beings and they only have certain things that are within their circle of control and their circle of ability. I'm like, well, that's
right.
true for everything throughout all of life. It's like, well, this
It's
person
true.
can't build their own machine. They can't build their own private plane. They can't have these things. They can't, and they won't, because that's not how life works. We're all going to have things that we can't do. We're all going to have things that we can do, and so we're going to have to
Right,
accept those
true.
limitations and work within them. And sometimes that means we go without for a little bit. And sometimes it means we go with
But sometimes
some
it's
things. I'll go
false.
without whatever.
Sometimes they false. See, the issue is that many times they are false limitations. It's like the kid that said that he couldn't do until he had to try, and then he figured out he could do.
Right. That's fair. Sometimes we do make decisions and assumptions without data. We're like, oh yeah, it's impossible. It just can't be done. It's like, I mean, we haven't done it yet. Let's not make a conclusion until we try to do it.
I mean, let's be real though. Poor people probably make up the best ideas. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to be
Yeah.
resourceful. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? It's
Yes.
crunch time. It's always crunch time. You
Mhm.
so
That's
that's
why
the
they
whole
say
thing about
necessity is the
coming to
mother of
America in
invention.
a sense. You say what?
And that's why they say necessity is the mother of invention. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll t- so a quick story. I was watching Shark Tank one time. And there was a dude, I don't remember what the product was. He's pitching the product and they pitching to Mark Cuban and all of them. And some idea, he did some iterations of it, blah, blah, blah. And they're looking at him like, how long you been doing this? He was like, yeah, 2 years or something like that. It's like, man, you done a lot. How much did you spend on it? He was just like, I think he said like 2 million or something like that. He's like, yeah, I took my whole savings and put it in the idea and tried to perfect it. And they were like, you spent too much money on it, man. You The point that they were trying to make is that you didn't know when to pull out because you kept trying to throw money at the problem. Where the issue was you developing the product was the problem. See, if your resources, they literally were saying like, if your resources were less, and you would have either found a better way to do it, or you would have known this is not working out for me. You know what I'm saying? And so, but people don't want. That's not a story that people want to hear. But
No. The stewardship matters. And I think that goes back to what they were saying before. We're like, hey, we're spending all this money on war, spending all this money on giving tax breaks to blah, 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 blah. And we shouldn't be doing that. I'm like, I hear you. Stewardship is real. And if we were poor and we didn't have those things to spend, we would have a real clear conversation of like what's going to move the needle in the most important way right now. How can we all survive till tomorrow?
right,
We're not talking about building extra stuff or going out and giving breaks to people. We were just like, hey, we need to live tomorrow. What do we need to do about that? What's the main way to concentrate enough resources in to get this thing done?
yeah, and there's a beauty in that. Whereas though I think a lot of people overlook the beauty in that because I think some people can retain that mindset even when they get a whole lot of resources, right?
Hmm.
Because it gets, if you have a lot of resources, that means you have, I would say, cushion. That's kind of how I'm thinking about it, right? Cushion. But you can keep your mind to the point where you're like, yo, we're only going to do the things that are necessary. We're just, and if it's not working, we're not going to keep knocking our head up against the wall. We want to be efficient. Because like you said, when you don't have a lot of, when you don't have a lot of resources, for one, you got to be inventive. You got to take something that wasn't even meant for something else and make it do something else. You know, like you said, if you want to play baseball, sometimes you don't have a bat. Sometimes you got a stick. You know, it could be a stick and a
Yes.
rock. You know, and
That's all we
that could
get.
be baseball. You know? But it doesn't change. It doesn't change the whole idea. That, like, but that's the resourceful, inventive aspect of it. And then you start to see how, how your ideas can, I don't know, you can invent things. You can invent the same thing with different products. I guess that's the point that I'm trying to say.
Yes. Yes. There are
Be
multiple ways
innovative.
to solve that same problem. And so it's great when people can, use their intellect and use their rationality to say, I could rearrange this in reality to make a better solution so that I can, move forward a little bit better and then calibrate. And I think all also, that's also something that I would love to see more and talked about more. It's like there are virtuous cycles. There are real ways to make these positive reinforcements where things actively move in the direction you want.
Yeah, man. In the circumstances, I don't know. I guess I'm just off the heels of the whole conversation about socialism, and there's so many defenders of socialism, and I
Because
don't
they
look at them
associate
like
socialism
bad
with
people.
kindness. And so I think it's
Yeah,
great when they have that approach to say, like, oh, I want to be nice to people. I think it's nice to be nice. And I think we should take care of people. I think taking care of people matters. I'm like, cool. I support that. How you do it matters.
yes,
How would you like to do
right.
it? They're like, I would like to steal from people. We were close, but we didn't quite get there. You wanted you claimed to be nice to people. You said niceness matters, but then you were like, but we're not going to be nice to the rich people though. People with resources, those people, fuck them. We're just gonna steal all their stuff because other people are poor. I'm like, oh, well, that's not going to make poor people wealthy. Like they're not going to be able to better solve problems by you giving them stuff. You spoiling children doesn't make them more virtuous adults. I don't think you should follow your
Right.
plan. How you do what you say you want matters. And the way you're describing it is the same way we ruin children. So not I'm not going to start with that plan. I think maybe we should go back to the right way to raise a healthy adult and give them progressively harder things for them to do and build real self-confidence so they can become, actual functional humans. That'd be really important. It was important for you. It was important for me. We should we should treat all human beings with that
Yeah,
same level of dignity and respect. They might be able to solve their own problems if we just give them the chance.
that's true, man. Damn, I just took a left because what you were saying reminded me of something that I don't want to derail. I don't want to talk about it lightly and derail the conversation here and bring up something that might need a full episode or something like that. But it just, the whole idea of the patriarchy just popped in my mind. Um, and I just want to touch on it just a little bit. Just in the element of sometimes, like I always have a struggle with the terms masculinity, femininity, and this whole thing about patriarchy, and I don't know. It's not necessarily, you get matriarchy, but the whole attitude that well, that we're both saying, and then that you just referred to. How can I approach this conversation, man? So, I mean, all right. Quick story. I hope this doesn't derail everything. I don't know if there's like this show called NLP. So you familiar with Bakari Sellers, right?
Party sellers. I don't think so.
Bakari Sellers. Okay, maybe not. So it's like, I don't know, Native Land Podcast, something like that. So black people, you familiar with Andrew Gillum, right? Okay, cool. So basically, he got caught up on some charge in Texas. I don't know what it was. I'm not necessarily that concerned with it. Some drug possession or something like that. I don't know. Second time, but whatever. But he's on the podcast with, I forgot her name. I think her name is Angela something. And Bakari Sellers. They do a podcast. So they basically like, yo, the dude has some issues. They start to show off. He's not on the show. I guess he called out, and I forgot her name, Angela something. Starts off the show like, yo, I'm always going to be supportive of Andrew, because she known him for a long time, like 20 years. The other dude, Bakari Sellers, is like, yo, if something happened to him and somebody called me and said it happened to him, because Andrew Gillum, I think he went for governor like in 2016 or something like that, in Florida or something like that. He ran for governor. But he was saying, like, if somebody called him and said something happened to Andrew, he wouldn't be surprised. And she just checked right in quickly, like, I would be surprised, right? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is when you add femininity to a culture, sometimes you get this mama bear aspect that doesn't result in that toughening that we just talked about. And that's the point that I'm trying to bring up, is that I'm a firm believer in, it's always easier to set a culture than correct a culture. So
Yes.
I'm always going to be firm first and soften later. I'm never soft first and then try to firm up later. Like, it's always set bounds and then ease up. It's never ease into my bounds.
Right.
Right. And and I just think, like, when you get the mama bear energy, I don't know how you can, I know this is gonna be tough for me to navigate. I just don't know how you can set that, especially for kids. How do you set that level of that ability to deal with adversity with that, oh, somebody's going to come protect me, first instinct energy all the time?
Right.
It's like, you don't get that, yo, you need to toughen up. You need to get this, you need to shape up and get this. And it's not
Yes.
like it's all mothers do this stuff, and it's not all women who do this stuff, and it's men at times that do this stuff too. That's why I'm saying it in
Mhm.
masculine, feminine, patriarchy, matriarchy terms. It's not
Right.
man, woman term, you know. But that whole idea of that firm versus the soft,
Mhm.
that balance sometimes gets off. That's especially from a
Yes.
societal perspective. That's the best I can do right now.
I hear you. And I mean, that's kind of where we are. Like, it's not to me a male woman thing. It is a matter of maturity and a matter of people who are courageous enough to hold the standard, to say, this is the way it has to be. This is the way that life has presented to us. And therefore, we need to measure up. We need to actively become tough enough to accomplish what we need. We need to become strong enough to meet these needs. We need to learn enough to be able to accomplish these goals so that we can have the inherent character and the inherent virtue to say, I've skills enough to handle problems, and I have the courage enough to address these problems when they arise. And so that requires to set a standard really early of like, you need to go off and I expect you to solve your own problems. I expect me to solve my own problems. And I have enough respect for human dignity, for the human being I'm seeing in front of me. I expect you specifically to address this issue for yourself. And no, you aren't able to do it right now. I know that. I know you are going through pain and suffering right now. I understand it is hard. Life is hard. I expect life to be difficult. I would expect you to address the difficulty of life with your effort, with your time, with your reason. And as I see you striving, I may have enough bandwidth to say, hey, let me help. I would like you to do better and not have to go through the same struggle I did. That's a whole different conversation than, meaning, like, that is the patriarchy. That is the strong, firm, masculine approach, quote unquote, that people have. And I would love to people put that into approach that of health. Like, this is a healthy approach to life, is to actively say, look at this person trying as hard as they can to address this issue with all that they can. Let's help them by giving them resources, direction, guidance, and let's put this into a system that we call education. Instead of them having to learn everything themselves, let's pass along the lessons we've learned and give resources so they can move a lot faster, so they can move us all in the direction we want to go. As we see people striving, let's encourage that. I want to have more of that conversation instead of saying, well, this person is struggling. Let's do it for them. Let's give them all the things. Let's make sure they don't have to suffer. Let's make sure nothing about the hardness of life gets to them. I'm like, that's fine for children who are, 0 to 5, even 0 to 18. But I think the more people can deal with the hardness of life, the more they overcome those difficulties, these challenges, these obstacles, the more virtue they'll have, the more actual opportunities for maturity that they'll have.
Man, I think that's fair. And once again, I think that this is a bigger topic than I can even, because I think there's so much more that I like to say about this. I think we should probably put this in its own thing.
All right, we'll table that.
Just the only thing I'll just add on the end of it is, to your point, when we talk about healthy, we need healthier ideas because both of this, the masculine and the feminine, is important, right? But we need healthy ideas about it. And I don't know, like, I feel like I have a good, healthy idea of the masculine. I don't know that I know or have a great, healthy idea of the feminine. When I say masculine, I mean mature masculine. And I don't know if I have a great idea of the mature feminine. Um, and when I say feminine, I'm talking about like more of a supportive energy.
Supportive, nurturing, emotionally empathetic kind of approach. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've seen, I mean, even close to me, in my where I'm at, I, I see people get into these relationships. I know. Have you ever seen like this? I know I'm still delving into the same thing, but have you ever seen this? The son husband relationship. Have you ever seen this thing happen?
Where the
Like
wife treats the
like a
husband
mother,
like
like
kid,
no, no, no,
or when
like the
an
mother,
actual son
single mother,
in the son. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes.
the single mother's like treating the son like a boyfriend or a husband or something like that.
Right.
And it's like it's not helpful. It's like I'm seeing it right in my face. I feel like I'm seeing it in my neighborhood. And I'm like, you can't get beyond your stuff to understand how much you're limiting this kid or whatever, you know? And it's just, but sometimes people were so deep into their thing that they can't, they, I don't know, man. It's, it's hard for me to even discuss it, man, because it's almost like somebody's trying to present it as this is a virtue. I'm protecting this person and I'm doing this thing. But no, you are afraid of being alone. And you're just going to be codependent and develop another codependent person that's just not just going to exist together. This person is never going to go do anything of their own. They're never going to have their own relationships. They're not going to go work. Y'all just exist together like buddies.
Right.
You know,
Right. This person you made exists for you now, and they only exist to take care of you and fulfill the companionship role, fill any role you want another male to be in your life, which is sad, but I mean, it happens
yeah,
too often.
yeah, yeah. I just brought it up because that's what I think I'm seeing around my neighborhood.
I hear you.
So
Definitely stunts people's growth, but it also really warps people's understanding of what a healthy relationship is. And I get it. Not everyone grew up in a healthy relationship. They didn't have the best models, and maybe they didn't learn how to be healthy themselves. And so they're only giving people what they have. They're like, well, I don't know. A woman can say, well, I don't know how to raise a son. I don't know how men, get to be men. Therefore, I did the best I could with what I had. And I put on them the things that I thought a man would do. And, if that made this relationship I have with my child into a kind of a platonic spouse kind of approach, and if that's wrong, then that's what I did. In no sense, like I can see how people who don't know the right way could try to find this way as a workaround. I'm like, oh yeah, that's not going to work. I get it. It's if a woman is only related to men in a romantic sense, or in a romantic sense, where the man was just taking care of them all their life, and then they had a son. I'm like, if the man is no longer around, and now the woman's like, well, other men I knew did this, so now I'm going to expect you to do these things. I'm going to put these same expectations on you, and I don't know how you're going to do it because I never did it.
Wow. I mean, but you also we're gonna have to experiencing more of it just because of single parenting and the whole
Yeah,
attitude towards single parenting. I mean, I don't know,
sad.
man. It's a tricky subject.
It's complicated, but it's
I probably want to
also,
put something together.
yeah, that makes sense because this has been known before. This has been addressed before. There are ways people have encouraged people to develop. And like this is what therapy is supposed to, like, healthy therapy or appropriate therapy effectively builds healthy people. And so if you technically had if a son had grown up where a mother was treating them like the little man of the house, the husband around who was the platonic spouse kind of approach, that person could go to a therapist and say, hey, I am not good at my life. What am I missing? And slowly they could start being given little little obstacles to overcome to build the self-trust to say, there are some things I could become good at. There are some things I'm already good at. How can I build on that to build my identity, to figure out what are the things I care about the most? What are the things that I really do believe? How can I build a self-concept that actually is in line with who I actually am? And then start dreaming of, like, what kind of things do I want? What kind of things do I want for a family of my own? What would that take? What resources do I need? What skills do I need? How can I start to go about building these things to develop myself as a person, to develop my skill set, to be able to provide for myself and provide for others? And then what kind of virtues do I want to grow in? Like, there are steps that could be taken, but it is a lot to develop as a human being. It does not come about automatically. Just
Yeah,
getting old isn't going to make it happen.
it's true. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's tough. But yeah, I'm a what do they say? I'm a ponder on that, and I might put a few things
Nice.
together just to talk about it respectfully. Um, just because it's a complex subject, it's a complex issue. Cool, man. I mean, I don't really have anything else unless you got anything.
That's enough, man. We covered a lot of things tonight. I like it. Boom, boom. Hit some economic stuff, hit some morality, got some philosophy, and even got some social commentary. So I'll
Yeah.
take it.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully, I didn't jump around too much for the conversation. But yeah, cool, cool.